Hey guys, Andy here from Mediocre Hobbies coming at you with this week's video focused on 3D printing. I'm happy to announce that we are once again sponsored by Archvillain Games for this week's video, and I've managed to get my grubby paws on some STL files from their beautiful new line of science fiction miniatures, the Transcended. So I'm going to get one of those miniatures printed up and painted up for you guys on today's video, talk to you a little bit about what the Transcended model is to me, what it kind of evokes in me as a creator, and the ideas I have to incorporate it into different game systems and factions of the games that I play. I'll also be telling you a little bit more about Archvillain Games later on in the video. Before we get into the video, I just want to say a huge thank you to all of my active patrons. Without you guys, I would not be able to keep the lights on and the cameras rolling. So a huge thank you to all of you guys. If anybody's on the fence about joining my Patreon and is curious to know what you get from it, there is two main benefits to joining the Patreon. One is a private Discord server where you can talk with me and over 140 other people on a daily basis about your hobby, getting some extra tips and tricks in there. And two, you get an extra video every single week. So that means in a year, you will get 52 extra videos from me. So there has never been a better time to get involved. Without further ado, let's get into the video. So this is the awesome model that I went for from this month's releases. It is a giant mech with some sort of tortured being strapped to the front, built into the frame. Whether or not it is that being who is controlling the mech or whether the AI, the mech, is controlling the guy, that's up to your mind to decide the story. So I got them all built up, sprayed black and then zenithal with grey sear. And then I honestly had a little bit of a mental block as to what I wanted to do with it. There was so many ideas rushing around my brain as to what I wanted this miniature to look like and the different aesthetic choices that I could chase after. But in the end, I decided to go for a more militaristic style of paint job. So that's what I got stuck into. So to begin, I got some nice dark silver paint and I applied it to all of the under parts of the model. So I basically broke it up as the kind of over panels and then all of the substructure that keeps it up. I got a nice coat of silver on all of that. Not really worrying if I hit too much of the other parts. That's okay. We'll do the rest of that later. Then I grabbed some black Templar and applied that all over the cables and wires and bits and pieces like that were in the subframe as well. You can come back and add a color to these later on if you really feel like you need to. I just like blocking out all the base colors on pretty much all miniatures before I get a wash on and before I start any of the other kind of painting. It's also great to break up the actual substructure because there's so much detail in these 3D prints that you really do have to take your time, try and spot all the different parts and decide what one's going to be and what one isn't going to be. One of my favorite details in this is if you see the big cabling hanging down behind his back legs, there's a weight on the end of that to keep that line taut so it's not swinging around and getting caught in other pieces. Like it's just like a mechanical detail. It's something that someone who designed this might actually put on it. And I love when people do that. It's really cool. After I applied the black to all of the areas, it was now time to actually add a color. And this is where I went for that Creed camo to try and get that military look. I wanted to look like this thing used to be some sort of military asset, some sort of cool battle robot used to serve on the front lines, but it has since been corrupted by its crazed new pilot. Or maybe the crazed pilot was already there. That's how these battle mechs march into war. It's up to you as the person painting these miniatures to decide the story. I love when a model tells multiple stories. When new stories keep telling yourselves them in their head and you're trying to figure out what you want it to be, and I love that. I think that's the sign of a really good design. I put a bit of flesh contrast on the pilot. I'm going to call him the pilot from now on in because I think that's where my brain goes to the most. It's kind of a newer version of what a Combat Servitor would be for 40k. Some poor lobotomized fool strapped into this machine to fight away. After that, I threw Seraphim Sepia all over the construct. This will bring all the tones together, make the silvers not quite so bright. Make it look like this dingy old machine has been fighting for many years in combat. And while that shade is drying, we're going to take a quick look at today's sponsor. Of course, the sponsor of the video this week is Arch Villain Games, and they're showing off the Transcended Awakening. Their newest line of science fiction miniatures has been added to their collection. This is in fact the fourth line of science fiction miniatures these guys have brought out now, from the Norgrim clan, a more dwarven style, from the Hunger of the Stars, which were cannibal ogres, Demon Star, which was very chaos themed, and now the Transcended. I have managed to get my grubby paws on the STL files for most of these and got to do a video for each and every month of their science fiction line, and I hope to continue doing it in the future. Big fan of all of their sculpts, and I do hope at some point in the near future to bring you a game based on their new system, Battle Room. It's a skirmish game using their miniatures. It is currently an alpha for you to download and play, and they're currently looking for as much feedback as humanly possible. So if you guys are interested in getting your hands on some of these miniatures and trying out the game, there has never been a better time to get involved. Once again, a huge thank you to Arch Villain Games for supporting me and this channel. Now let's get back to finishing off this mech. Okay, with the shade dried and some texture paste added to the base, the model is really starting to give me that military vibes. I can already imagine it in both kind of urban settings and the kind of dense jungle. Imagine this thing kind of stomping its way through some trees, some tough brush. I think it'd be pretty cool. Lead Belcher I then used to basically dry brush the entire miniature. I wanted to get some more brightness back on the silver, but leave all of that sepia in the recesses. And I wanted to make the green armor look like it has been scuffed and chipped and worn. Something like it's been in combat for quite a long time. No piece of military equipment stays pristine after the war begins, after the engagement. It is maintained well, but they don't touch up the paint constantly or anything like that. As you can see, this darker grungy green really does work for that military feel. Another thing about 3D printing is you have access to unlimited miniatures. If you have enough resin and your printer's up and running, there's nothing stopping you. So I think personally finding these super quick schemes is very important for keeping your backlog low. One of the things I promised myself when I got into 3D printing is that I was not going to have another miniature hobby that was just going to have this huge backlog. And I've been fairly good with it up until now. A lot of my miniatures that I've printed have actually been painted. There's only a couple left. And it is down to the fact that I use these kind of quick to easy follow guides. And I hope you guys are learning something from them. I highlighted up the skin. Once again, this is going to be one of the brighter, more focal points of the miniature. So really I wanted to take my time. I may have sped through doing the hull armor and the metallics, but for this it's going to be painting individual muscle groups, shading it down, finishing the base, a few dry brushes on that. This is actually the sculpted base that they designed for the model. And as you can see, it's supposed to be kind of asphalt and broken road, maybe urban. If I hit it with all the browns it's the same as the base, it will match in perfectly with kind of jungle terrain. Mephiston Red was used to get some color on all of those rockets. I don't know about you, but I have very few color choices when it comes to rocket tips. It's either red or yellow. Don't ask me why, whether it's my childhood cartoon rockets or so on, but so one quick coat of Mephiston Red on all the rockets adds a really nice touch. It's a little tedious. The thing has got a lot of rockets on it. So take your time. Try not to hit the black frame around it if you're going for the same aesthetic. It's really starting to come together now. Now it's on some bold titanium white, basically any pure white that you have that you really like using, and I'm going to paint it on all of the bits that are supposed to be glowing. So he has this trifecta of lenses in the mech's face, and then the cover on the actual pilot's face as well has a bunch of lenses. And I'm going to stick to the idea that this thing is kind of traveling through the jungle. It's going to need lots of different kind of auspex and night vision and stuff like that. So I'm going to go for that movie theme with the green glow for like night vision. And as soon as I added the green glow, my brain immediately switched this thing from being stomping around the jungles to stomping around the jungles at night in the rain. I don't know why. I just imagine this thing, like the enemy gets kind of fearful as this thing sits in the jungle and they start to hear the patter of rain off something hard and metal, they get worried. And then it cuts to the view from this thing's face. Everything in that stark green of night vision. And then its cannons open up and it charges out. I was tempted to add transfers and stenciled numbers and everything to this, but I did decide to leave them off for now. It's a personal choice that you can add to your models if you so choose. Now I'm going to go to the kind of plume of fire coming out from its right arm. I got to keep this very simple. Red, orange, yellow, white. Solid coat of red, dry brush the other three, getting lighter as you go. It's a very simple technique that I use for fire. I use it for fire all the time, and it really does work. I know it's backwards. I know it should be white, yellow, orange, red, black at the tips kind of thing, but I trust me, I've tried to paint that a million times and I can't get it to work. Whereas this simple and effective technique to dry brush, and you can even overbrush, hit the edges, hit some of the armor with all the colors you go along, and it gives it a slight glow. Super fast, super effective. And it really is when I hit it with that last touch of white now in a moment that I think it looks great. Here's the white, grabs the tips, and there we are. Has another interesting spot of color on the model and finish it off nicely. And with that, we have our finished Arch-Villain Games mech ready to stomp its way across the battlefield. I think this would make an amazing Hellbrute. You could even use it as like a Lehman Russ with the amount of cannons that it has. Give it a big profile as if the Imperial Guard are using mechs in their force. Maybe a Sentinel. Or of course in Arch-Villain's own game, Battle Room, that you can check out with the links below. Hope you guys enjoyed the video as much as I enjoyed making it. And I can't wait to see what Arch-Villain has in store next month. Okay guys, and there we have it. One transcended mech finished and ready to stomp its way onto many different battlefields, whether it's across the grim dark future that is 40k, or whether it's in a miniature agnostic game like Space Station Zero. I think we can find a use for these models in many, many different places. So once again, a huge thank you to my sponsor. And a huge thank you to all of you guys for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, make sure you give it a like. Drop a comment below if you have any questions. And if you're not already subscribed to my channel, it would mean the world to me. Take 2 seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button. Check out my links on Patreon below. And have a great day, guys.